Catches, puts up a three. One go. Rebound box.
Now head over in this direction. Gone to three.
Tie game with 5 seconds remaining. The impossible has happened.
Pass is intercepted at the goal line by Malcolm Butler.
Anthony for three. Puts it in. Bridges. Oh my God. Oh, what? Oh, blocked by James. LeBron James with the rejection. Curry way downtown. Bang! Bang!
And now the starting lineup for your Chicago Bulls. A 6'6" guard from USC, number 11, DeMar DeRozan. From UCLA, a 6'6" guard, number 2, Lonzo Ball. The man in the middle, from USC and Montenegro, at 6'11", number 9, Nikola Vucevic. A 6'6" forward from UNLV, number 5, Derek Jones Jr. And from UCLA, a 6'6" guard, number 8, Zach LaVine.
We are back. What's up, guys? Welcome back to Cam's Corner. We've got a very special guest on here today. He's currently the public address announcer for the Chicago Bulls, the Chicago Bears, and the Chicago Fire. He also works for the University of Illinois and does PA there as well. Guys, help me in welcoming Tim Sinclair to the show. Tim, thank you so much for joining me, man. How's it been?
Man, my pleasure. Thanks for having me on. It's my slow season, so I'm enjoying a little bit of downtime.
No, I'm glad I could catch you, man. I know during the season with the Bulls and everything like that, everything gets so busy. Are you calling the Bears games right now or no?
Well, when the Bears start up, I will be, yeah. So, but our first one's not till, I think, mid-August will be the first right. Bears game. So I've got the Fire games are going on right now, and that'll, those are hit or miss. I've got one here in a couple of days, but sometimes you'll go 2 or 3 weeks in between. So it just kind of depends on the schedule. Right.
So you've also done, numerous amounts of like commercial ads and things like that in the past. You also worked with the Pacers. You were PA announcer for the Bulls in NBA 2K, All-Star Weekend this past weekend, which we'll get into a little bit later. But, kind of start off, like, where are you originally from?
Originally, Detroit, Michigan. And I was there until about just before 6th grade. My parents moved to Illinois. And then Illinois has largely been home, although I went to Baton Rouge and Huntsville, Alabama for a couple of years at a time while I was doing radio, and ultimately landed back in the States 15 years ago or so now. And Illinois has been home for quite some time.
Awesome. Yeah. So what sports did you follow and admire when you were growing up, and did you play any as well?
Basketball was the sport I played. And so I don't know that it's my favorite to work. Everybody asks that question. It's the one I'm probably most comfortable with off the bat, although you learn soccer and football and everything pretty quickly in terms of what you have to do for PA that you don't for other sports. I followed as a kid. I was a big Michigan fan and a Detroit Pistons fan. And I liked the Tigers and the Lions, which was, a lesson in futility because they're, never been any good. But then we moved to Illinois, and I moved here about the time that the Bulls were getting really good. So the heyday of the Jordan years, they started winning championships. And so that transition time worked really, really well for me because the teams in the new state I was living in were pretty good. And so I kind of made the transition for the most part to all the Illinois teams. And now I get to work for them.
That's awesome. I got a couple questions, down the line I'll ask about,
sure.
Transitionings and things like that. But kind of just to jump the gun a little bit, was it tough to transition, being from Michigan, being such a Detroit fan and like your whole entire life now calling like different types of teams and things like that?
If it had happened like right when I moved, there would have been some, weird cheering against the teams that I loved, but it was so far removed. I was wholeheartedly in the Bulls camp and Bears camp and Illinois, all of those were my teams. Now, the cool thing is I've now gotten to call games against all of those teams that I grew up loving. Right. I've done, obviously, the Lions. I've done the Pistons. I've done University of Michigan. again, when they come here to play the teams here, and I've done a couple of White Sox games, and it happened to be when they were playing the Tigers. So I really got a lot of those boyhood teams done, and those are always kind of pinch me moments because it's a lot of fun to relive your childhood while you're working.
Yeah, most definitely. You know, as far as everything else goes, like where does that passion for public address come from? Like, where did it start? And like, have you always had like an ear for this kind of thing?
You know, I went to school for architecture, so I was not at all thinking I was going to be in communication or use my voice in any way, shape, or form. But I discovered radio partway into college and realized I needed to make some money. It was kind of fun. And one thing led to another, and I realized maybe this is what I want to do with my life. And so I jumped into radio full time. Still didn't have really any sort of thoughts of working in sports. I just happened to like sports and work in media.
Right.
And, you know, I got an opportunity probably 10 or so years into my radio career to audition for Illinois. And I ended up doing a baseball game like a year later and a few other things. So to answer your question, my passion, it came from being bit by the public address bug. I think the first time I did it, I went, this is fun. It's doing something I love in that I'm combining my loves of sports and my love of communicating an idea to people in one place. And then as you get better and better at it, I think the drive tends to get bigger and bigger because you know you've found your thing. And I didn't mean to. I fell into it. It was kind of lucky. But when you find your thing, that passion kind of drives itself. And that's certainly been the case for me.
I agree with you 100%. Like right now, I've dabbled in PA a little bit at my school right now at Rhode Island College. I'm transferring over to the University of Rhode Island for my next year. And, you know, broadcasting's obviously been my passion, but like, I agree with you 100%. Once you start it and you like, I'll realize like, this is like what I like it makes it so much easier to do the job. So I agree with you 100%. Yep. So what's college did you go to?
I was at University of Illinois. But I was only there for 3 semesters. And realized into my 3rd semester that I had found radio. I loved it and I wanted to pursue it full time. And so I dropped out and jumped into that. And the rest is history. I don't necessarily recommend it, but it certainly worked for me. And, you know, it's one of those fields where experience is key and having a natural ability to do what it is you're doing. And so school can help with those things for sure and can give you opportunities and can sort of give you the tools you need to build. But I had an opportunity to get experience pretty much right out of the chute. And so I took it.
Yeah. So how did you, like you said, only 3 semesters at the University of Illinois, where did those opportunities come from as far as like applying for jobs and things like that, even though you didn't have that big of a school? Like you said, you don't have to have that big of a school experience for it, but like, how did these job opportunities like come your way so fast?
Well, it started in architecture school. I was like, hey, I just need a part-time job. And so I was looking around. It's actually the church where I was going at the time. And I looked around, I saw a guy who I knew who worked in radio. He's probably 20 years older than I was. And I was like, wonder if they need some help at the radio station. I'll just ask for a favor. And he said, you want to be on the air? And I wasn't really even thinking of that necessarily. I was just going to help out over there doing whatever. And I said, sure. And they put me on the air and that gave me the opportunity. And then a few months later, there's another guy I knew who we kind of knew the same people. He goes, hey, I heard you doing work over there. Would you come work for our station on the weekends too? We need some help. And so I said, sure. And now I was doing 2 stations at a time. And eventually, you know, I always say you've got to have ability, availability, and humility. And I was working on ability and I was trying to get better and working as much as I could. But being available, that availability piece, like if someone says, hey, can you work? And you can say yes, they're going to call you because people who are in positions of authority or having to hire and fire people don't want to dig and look and wonder, are they going to show up? Or are they not? So just being available is huge. And then humility, like be easy to work with. Once you get there, do whatever's asked of you. If it's like, hey, while you're doing your air shift, while the songs are playing, can you go empty trash or sweep or organize, stack these chairs? Do it. Yeah. Because that'll give you more opportunities than you realize in the future.
Yeah, like you said, like just as people hear as like of you, like you know, job after job or whatever, it's all about those connections. The more people that know you, the more connections that you have, the easier it is to just, you know, kind of just go along with it. So along those lines, like did you pick up skills along the way, or was it like you were just kind of natural at it and you know that kind of got you to where you are?
Oh, I was terrible to start. I mean, I haven't gone back and listened to those, so it probably felt worse than it was.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like everybody is born with a natural floor.
Yeah.
For whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Michael Jordan was 6'6". So that helped. Like, he had a floor of being a fairly naturally gifted and athletic person. But everybody will tell you he became the best in the world because he worked his butt off to get there. He took what his natural abilities were and decided, I'm going to do something with that. And for me, I kind of look at it the same way. Yeah, my voice has been given to me and it has a natural floor of, hey, it could become this, but I still have to work really hard to do something with it. And not only just does it have to sound right, but you have to use it right. You have to be able to read clearly. You have to be able to not stutter. You have to be able to think on the fly. You've got to use inflection and tone and volume and all those things to impact people in a way that they want or need to be impacted. And so, man, it takes so much time to figure that out. And I'm still learning every day. I feel like there's always something new that I can learn to get better, or to go, I would have done that differently. And next time I get to do it differently, which is great.
Yeah. So how long have you been doing it? Like, when was like the date of the first like official like job that you got?
I want to say that baseball game at Illinois was maybe this time of year, 2008, I think, which seems like forever ago. And then I didn't do anything for 6 months after that. And then they asked me to come to a swimming and diving meet or something. And so it was by 2010 that I really was like, hey, I'm doing some regular events at the university. They weren't big ones, but I was doing a few. And then it was 2014 when I first got my professional job. And that's when I started with the Fire.
Right. So, you know, kind of going along the lines that we were just talking about, like, you know, how you have to learn how to be great and, you know, kind of perfect, like how you say things and things like that. Like, was there somebody, you know, that you looked up to, like, in a way to like that did public address that, you know, you kind of were kind of followed like their career in a way? Like for me, like broadcasting wise, like Mike Breen, all those kinds of guys, like
Sure.
Kevin Harlan, like I look up to those guys as broadcasters. And like someone like for PA, like Mike Wazowski, who's like the PA guy for the Knicks. Like I'm a Knicks fan. Things like that. Like, was there somebody that you looked up to that maybe not like mimicked, but like kind of learned from in a way?
There were some guys that I remember. Jim Shepard did PA for Illinois football and basketball for like 25 years. And so when I first got to Illinois, he was the guy I heard at everything I went to. And I had no idea I would end up doing that job. And so I've never tried to, our voices are very different. Our styles are very different.
Right. Yeah.
But the impact he had on the event and how it felt like an Illinois event because you heard Jim's voice, that's what stuck with me there. Ray Clay with the Bulls, you know, in the Jordan years.
Yep.
And there are parts of my style and delivery that may resemble his a little bit, but I remembered his because it was because of the energy he brought, because it became a show, right? It was TV networks picked up on it because it was bigger than life. And so there are little bits and pieces that I take from everyone. You know, the Bob Shepard, who did the Yankees way back in the day, always used to say, be clear, concise, and correct. Those are the 3 C's. It's all you need to know. Now, the job's changed since he was doing it back in the, 100 years ago almost. But those things are good too. Like my job is people need to hear me. I need to say what I need to say and get out. And I need to be right when I say stuff. And so I've learned something from everyone, but I still try to remain 100% true to myself because otherwise it's not going to come off right anyway.
Exactly. And people that I've talked to that have like helped me along the way as well. Like when I first got into it is like, if you're so uniquely yourself, like that's what's going to get people to recognize you. Like, even if you, like you said, when you first started, like you weren't that great, but now like you're great because you're just so uniquely yourself. So I completely agree with you and completely understand from that standpoint as well. So going along, like what you said about like Ray Clay, when you first got the job with the Bulls, did you feel like you had to fill like his shoes in a way? Or was it like I just mentioned, like you were just so like uniquely yourself, like you just kind of went into that job, like kind of with ease?
Yeah. Tommy Edwards and Ray Clay. Tommy started the whole, he started in 76 with the Bulls, started the whole process. Then Ray took over, then Tommy came back. So those two guys had been doing the job for like 42 years before I took it.
Yeah.
And so, there was for me a sense of weight in it. Like this is a big deal. People pay attention to legends in our industry have done it before me. And so to me, the pressure was on. I didn't feel the need to fill their shoes only because what we were just talking about. Like, I know I have to be me. And if I'm trying to copy somebody else, if I'm trying to do it their way, it's going to come across as disingenuous. It's going to be forced. It's going to be fake. And the crowd's going to notice that. And ultimately, it's not going to work. And so I had to try to remember that the Bulls are hiring me for me because they like something that I bring to the table. And I had to be really confident in just doing that and hoping that people resonated with it. And, 99 times out of 100, it's been really, really positive. There's always going to be people. That's the thing about working in something subjective. Not everybody's going to like it, and that's fine. But I've been really fortunate and thankful, and the Bolts fans have been great.
That's awesome. And coming into those like professional jobs, like, kind of going back to what we said, like when we first like started and things like that, like when you first got like these professional jobs, like have you ever like stuttered or like kind of messed up like live, like during an introduction or maybe like during a game or like something like that?
Mistakes happen for sure. I really don't get nervous. It doesn't mean I don't stumble over a word here and there. My biggest mistake for sure was my second year with the Pacers. Bojan Bogdanovic had gone to play for the Jazz. So he played with the Pacers my first year, and then he took his talents to Utah. And so when they came back to play the Pacers, it was a big deal because Bojan was back and people were excited to see him. And you got a million things going on, people talking in your ear, you're trying to do three things at once. And Sabonis was going to the line shooting free throws. And without knowing I said it, I said, Bojan Bogdanovic at the line shooting two. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh no.
Yeah.
What? And then I look up and they had called a timeout between free throws. And Sabonis was standing right there and goes, who's calling me Bogdanovic? And I'm like, dude, I'm so sorry. And he was laughing about it. But it was just, you say that many words over that many games, over that many years, it's impossible to not mess up once or twice. So it's definitely happened.
It's funny. Sabonis kind of pointed it out. So, that's pretty cool. Like, kind of a question to go along with that. Like, have you ever had any like relations with these types of players, like along the lines, like along your career?
Not outside the game. No. We'll talk at the game.
Right.
DeRozan has a very, very, very strict routine of what he does every single game. And when he comes out for warmups, he sits right on the scorer's table in front of me. And usually guys are taking pictures of him and stuff like that. And so we'll chat for 20 or 30 seconds as he's getting his shoes laced up for warmups. And then he jumps in. Malcolm Hill and Ayo Dosunmu both played at Illinois, and they play for the Bulls now. So we got stuff to talk about since I called their names in college and in the pros. So yeah, you'll have little short conversations, but a friend relationship isn't really a thing.
Right. Yeah. That's what I kind of like meant, but like in a way, like I kind of want to know, of course, like if that would like transition off the court as well, or like off the field or whatever. But
I mean, who knows? It's certainly possible. I've heard of it happening, but most of the time it's just you're friendly at the games, and they're busy and I'm busy, and our paths don't cross after that.
No, exactly right. So kind of going along those lines as well, like surreal to me. That'd be kind of surreal, like first starting off, like, oh, an NBA player is like right in front of me. You know what I mean? So like, what was like the first like surreal or like cool moment like that you were able to experience, like in your opinion?
My very first one was probably my very first game with the Pacers. Oladipo was there at the time. Yep. So, and he was, played at Indiana and playing in Indiana. Everybody loved him. Mm-hmm. And so he came by and gave me a fist bump before the game started. And that was kind of fun because I'd never been that close to NBA players before. And then, they're recognizing you as you're doing your thing. So that was super cool. Starstruck moments probably haven't happened much other than, when LeBron's talking to you or Curry's sitting there, that's a little bit of a thing just because they seem very much larger than life and they're not who I'm calling every day.
Yeah.
And then at the NBA All-Star thing, when you had, top 75 players of all time, all in the same room, we got a little starstruck there.
Yeah. So yeah, kind of going along with that with the All-Star game, like how did that opportunity come your way? And what was your reaction when you found out that you were going to be doing it?
So I don't exactly know the rules for how they choose. I do know that typically whoever works in the market where the All-Star game is coming, they get to do part of the festivities. It's not always the same thing. In 2020, when the All-Star game came to Chicago, the NBA asked me to come from Indy to go do the game and all of Saturday night. Actually, I did both. And then in Cleveland, I got the call again to go do the game and the whole 75th anniversary celebration. So, man, to me, that is about, in the NBA, is about as big an honor as you can have. I want to do a finals game, of course, but, PA guys do finals when their teams are good. The PA guy could suck, but he gets to do the finals because he works for the team who made it there. Yeah. The All-Star game, the NBA chooses. And so I take a lot of pride in the fact that they have chosen me 2 out of the last 3 years. And the third of those 3 was the weird games in Atlanta during COVID that they couldn't use anybody else other than Atlanta people anyway. So that's really cool. I've had opportunities to go overseas. I'll likely have others to do that with the NBA and work some events for them. So I don't know always why they choose me, but I never question that. I'm just happy to take them up on it.
So you never called the finals game. You did the NBA bubble, but you didn't call the finals?
Correct. I was there for about 6 weeks because of my schedule with the Bears. I couldn't stay the whole time. So I stayed for about 5 or 6 weeks, and then I drove across the state and did the WNBA bubble for about 4 or 5 weeks. And then I got back the day before the Bears home opener. So that was my summer of 2020.
Yeah. So like you just mentioned about with the COVID pause, like how there was no fans, the bubble as well is probably even worse because it was in it looked like just like a gym, like just like an open run gym, like things like that. But in an empty NBA arena and just in general, like what was that time like for you, and how did you still bring that like hype and that, that uniqueness that you have to, public address?
Yeah, it's hard for sure. You start to get a little bit used to it. And the good thing about the NBA was they allowed us to pipe in crowd noise, and it could rise and fall based on how the game was going. So if you're the home team and you're scoring, they can bring up applause and cheer. They got pretty good at it, that it wasn't completely authentic, but it was pretty darn close. Mm-hmm. And so that helped. And, the lights can be off around the outside. So you're really only paying attention to what's on the court. Football was the weird one, though, because you're playing games at noon or 1 o'clock East, and it's light outside. They can't turn the lights off to make it all dark, and they couldn't play crowd noise. They could only play a very low, dull roar in the stadium, and then TV would have to do their own crowd noise. So that was the weird one because you can clearly see 60,000 empty seats. It's broad daylight, and there's no crowd noise being added, and so it's literally just my voice, and that was a little strange. But you get used to it. You got, we're trying to keep this as close to normal as possible for the players. We're also trying to put on a good product for television because they take some of that audio here and there, and you can hear it in the background. And so you just got to keep that in mind. But man, am I thankful that people are back in the seat.
Yeah, it's awesome to hear, and plentiful amount of just opportunities and experiences that you've been able to be a part of, which is so cool and surreal because that's exactly what I want to do. Anything that could get in public address, broadcast, anything in sports media communications, that's what I'm striving for. And, that's kind of like the fallback on why I started my podcast too, like all the broadcasts I've done at my school. So, it's really cool to hear and kind of, what you've done and how you've done it. So kind of along that, over the years, once you first started, like you said, how you weren't as great as you thought you were now, how you are now, how have you grown each and every year, and what has been kind of the focal point in the mindset year in and year out?
We've talked a little bit about it, but I think authenticity is a big key that most people don't think about. Most people think of public address in a couple of ways. Either this voice of God in the sky who nobody sees or hears, it might as well be a robot. It's like Siri, right? Somebody's typing something in and this voice is reading it back with no emotion, very little inflection. You're always turned up to 11, right? Just always loud. And man, I just feel like that's the wrong way to go, because we are all human. And if you try to convince a crowd that they're supposed to get loud, they're supposed to be excited when you're down 25 in the fourth quarter, it's disingenuous. And so not that I can ever be sad or disappointed, out loud, but my voice and cadence and volume and energy is different depending on what happens during the game. So if we hit a 3-pointer, the first shot of the game, yeah, everybody's pretty excited. That's a great way to start. If we hit it with 2 seconds left to win the game, that's a whole different level. And if we hit it while we're down 20, then yeah, I'm still excited, but it's nowhere near the level of the other two. And so figuring out how to read the room, read the situation, go right here, I need to say this in this way or not say anything, or, there's all sorts of different situations, but that's really more so than your voice, more so than your ability to read, more so than any of that, being able to read the room, read the situation, and say the right thing at the right time in the right way.
Yeah, most definitely. And I've not that I've experienced, I have nothing like compared to you as well, but like something at my school that I've done was the girls team. They made it to the NCAA championship, and it was our school hosted it. So like I was the PA guy for that. So,
nice.
And it was neck and neck the whole game. So like I got to get, kind of excited for the away team as well, because that's what the school told me, don't like, but like bring it, like your intensity and your like uniqueness to it. Like we mentioned, like the whole time we've been talking, like, and that is what I feel like that's the best part, that adrenaline rush when you're the man, the voice of the arena. Like that's just, I love that, like adrenaline rush. It's like, do you get like the same kind of, in close games like that? Do you feel like kind of like the same way?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I think I'd say this. I've always said it's our job as PA guys to reflect what the crowd is or should be feeling. So sometimes we're a mirror for them. Yeah. Like they're excited, like we're going with them. Sometimes you got to lead them a little bit, not in a fake way. Excuse me, not in a fake way, but like, okay, let's slowly start working our way here because things are starting to get interesting, and so I'm going to try to help you move that way. But you got to layer that with, it's never about me, right? It's like nobody came to hear me talk; they came to see the game, whatever game it is. And so I need to be a part of that entertainment experience. I need to be sort of in line with the sound of the music and the smell of the popcorn and, the band who might be playing or whatever. I am part of that overall sensory experience. And if I fit in that appropriately, no one may talk about me, but everyone will appreciate me, exactly. Whether they know it or not. And if one of those things sticks out too far of that experience, then it starts to ruin the whole thing, right? So like if someone burns the popcorn, that's the only thing you're like, oh my gosh, that smells awful. Did they set fire? Now you're distracted because your nose has taken all your senses somewhere else. Same thing with the band. If the trumpet player is way out of tune or not hitting any of the right notes, everybody's distracted by the sound of something that's not quite right and doesn't fit. And from a PA perspective, I think it's the same thing. If I'm too loud, too over the top, not giving them correct information, not doing it in a timely way, I'm not understandable, all those things, now they're going to be distracted by me. And the goal for me has always been to kind of fit in that overall experience. And I think if we can do that, we're in good shape.
Yeah, most definitely. Like, that's kind of like how I like, kind of think of things like that. Like if you kind of like have to go along with what the crowd is like feeling, you know what I mean? Like, like you said earlier, like you don't want to be hyping up a crowd and screaming when they're down 25 in the fourth quarter. Like, yeah. But yeah, that kind of wraps up like kind of like the sports aspect of it. But I did want to, kind of wrap up that with the NBA 2K, how you got that job opportunity and your reaction. I saw a little bit online that when you were talking with one of the hosts for like a Bulls podcast or like a Bulls show or something like that, like your kids were really excited to see that you were one of the voices for the Bulls. So, talk a little bit about that and how that experience, kind of came your way.
Yeah, it's a super fun experience. And, a lot of the NBA guys all got to go do their teams. So we're all spending time cool. In California. In fact, I'm going back in a couple of weeks to do all the new stuff for 2K23. So I'll get 5 days in Los Angeles, which is never a bad thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's fun for me because I don't play the game much. I just hear it in the background when my boys play. That wasn't as exciting, but I will say that I wanted to be a part of how it all went together. I wanted to know how it worked. Like it always amazed me from the PA guys to the play-by-play,
right?
How they put all that together in real time for a game that's being
simulated.
They don't know what's happening, right? Yeah, they
right.
just don't know it. So to be a part of that, see how they record it, how they go about that, that was the best part for me. And I really, really enjoyed sort of pull the curtain back a little bit and look to see how they put it together.
I don't know if you can mention it, but how do they do that? Like, how do you mention like all these guys' names and like, things like that? Like, how does that all work in line, I guess?
I can give some basics.
Yeah.
They essentially, we record a lot of things repetitively, and they have a computer program designed to record and clip over and over and over and over names, numbers, situations, etc. So we would do, for example, and you've got to do them with different volume levels, right? So I'll use Zach LaVine as an example, but if you're playing as the Bulls and Zach LaVine's at home, then we introduce him for the starting lineups. It needs to be Zach LaVine. It's got to be big. But if he's going to the free throw line, that would sound ridiculous.
Yeah.
So we also have to record one of Zach LaVine.
Yeah.
Or if he's the visitor, same thing. You've got to record. And then if he hits a big dunk, it's going to be excited, but it's not going to be the same as starting lineup. So you go through a bunch of NBA players' names. You'd be like, Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, Lauri Markkanen, over and over and over and over and over. Same thing with numbers. Number 1, number 2, number 3. We had to do scores. We had to do teams. We had to do arenas. We had to do. So it takes days to get all of our parts recorded, but it's worth it. It is fun. And it's just a lot of work I say a lot of work for me. It's a lot more work for the people who are programming it all. So kudos to them for doing it.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And like you said, like all the PA announcers, there's probably like 1 or 2 for each team. Like I saw, just so much work gets put into these games that, we don't even realize, so that's like, I saw it firsthand on like your TikTok page. That's how I kind of got in contact with you. And I was like, maybe he would be interested in doing the podcast. So
sure.
Again, I appreciate you coming on and, to kind of wrap everything up. Like I said, going outside like the sports aspect of it, you've done a lot of like commercial ads and things like that. Like, how do those, like, do people just contact you for those, or like do you like kind of like reach out to these companies?
Every once in a while you'll audition. I, for the most part, have let it come to me. I may change that in the future, but right now it's a lot of, hey, you're the guy who does the Bulls, or you're the guy who does the Bears, or I heard your voice here. Can we have you do X, Y, or Z? I just did something for Chicago Hospital where they knew who I was from the teams and wanted my voice for their thing. So that's how a lot of it happens. So obviously it's a little extra, and every little bit helps when you can make a little bit extra here and there. And so it's a lot of fun to do. I never, I don't turn too much down,
Right.
And I'll take any opportunity that comes my way.
Right. Like you mentioned in the beginning, like do anything that you can to one and get better at what you do, and two, make money at the end of the day. That's what, everyone's trying to do, and get better.
To do whatever.
Exactly.
I'm going to butcher this a little bit, but it's to do whatever you can now so you can do whatever you want later. That I think is a pretty good rule of thumb in this industry. You can be choosy the farther down the line you get. I've thankfully gotten to do a little bit of that, but there's always room to do more, to try things. You never know where it'll lead.
Yeah, that's exactly how I think about that stuff, man. Any opportunity I can get into, it's just, I'm going to take it, because you never know where it can bring you. So again, that kind of caps off everything. I appreciate you coming on, Tim, and just kind of cap everything off. Like, what's in store for the future? I know you've got a lot of things coming your way. Like you said, NBA 2K23, you're going to do the voice for that as well. But what's in store for like the upcoming months? Well,
I just literally, the day we're recording this, announced that I've got a podcast coming out.
Wow.
I've been working on this for a long time. It's not an interview style podcast, although interviews were required to do it. It's more of a documentary style. And it's called The Call. And we're basically going into sports' most famous calls and talking with the men and women behind the mic for those calls about what it was like, what they were thinking, the inside stories of stuff we didn't know, and then putting all that together into about a 20-minute podcast. And so that comes out on Tuesday. And the first one it's called And Now, which you probably can imagine what that is. It's Tommy Edwards, Ray Clay, and I all talking about how the Bulls intro started, what it was like back in the 70s, all the way to when it became hugely popular during the Jordan years and to what it's like now. And I think you and your audience will find it fascinating. I will mention that it's exclusively going to be on an app called Stump, S-T-U-M-P. This is a new social media app exclusively for audio. It's free to download, free to use, but download Stump, find me, and the podcast will be right there.
Yeah, I'll definitely support it anywhere I can, man. That's awesome. I guess to kind of end everything off, what do you think of my show? What do you think of the podcast? What do you think of the rundown? I just want to get a little bit of feedback from one of the first professionals I've had on.
I will say you are certainly, for your age, very comfortable behind a microphone, and that's great. Seems like I don't know you beyond this, but seems like you are authentic and willing to be yourself, and are doing fantastic. I mean, I had no clue what I was doing at your age whatsoever. So, man, keep it up, keep working. Do this. The more you do this, the more you interview, the more you call games, whether they be high school or whatever. The better off you're going to be. So you're off to a great start.
I appreciate it, Tim. Thank you so much. Tuesday, I'll tune into yours. Do you know what time it's going to be out?
I will probably release it about 10 a.m. my time, which would be about 11 your time. If you have a chance between now and then, just check out the Stump app. You can hear there's like a 1.5-minute long trailer for it there. And you can just listen to it and see what you think and give me your feedback. And then the full episode will be out on Tuesday.
Yeah, awesome. I'll tune into that right now. I'll download it, see what I can do. And yeah, so again, appreciate the time, Tim. I'll definitely be in touch. Thank you.
All right. Good talking to you, Cam. Thanks for everything. And we'll talk soon.
Thank you, man. Thank you. Appreciate it.
See you, man.